All of my webcomics initially started out as roleplays. I did this largely because it meant that Ursula was already invested with the work before the script got to her. And it's fun. So I was gonna do, I'm gonna do roleplays anyways. So there you go. Today, I would like to talk to you a little bit about how I go about turning a roleplay into a comic. Okay, this is going to sound a little bit silly, but when I approach a roleplay, I approach it a lot like I would a memoir. Despite the fact that roleplays are fiction, they function a lot more like life. Function, oh my god. Sure, like in real life, you don't get to take down dragons usually, but you do go on tangents and get lost and confused, and there's like an incredible roughness to life and role plays that doesn't really make for a good story typically. So if you simply report it, it's going to be boring. So like think of it like this way. We all have friends that are not so good at telling stories. They ramble about their lives, they get stuck on little details, they need to tell you absolutely every fact about their life to set up like the context, and they kind of lose track of what they were trying to say in the first place. And then it all kind of culminates in like oh, you had to be there. But like, did you actually have to be there? Not really, because there are plenty of people that can make any story interesting, and I'd like to help you a little tiny bit on giving your story justice. The same thing, this is such a ramble, oh my god, the same thing can be said about people who ramble on about their quests and their roleplay shenanigans. So how do you do your story justice? First things first, what is the story you want to tell? Often roleplays, much like life, are a jumbled cornucopia of ideas that don't quite fit together. You need to pick out a main plot thread. Choose the biggest, most impactful, meaningful one to you. This is the one that will shape the story you want to tell. Whatever you pick will stand as a guidepost as you sort through and cut what needs altering. If you don't know what your main plot will be, write down all your favorite moments, characters, settings, and threads, and then order it from what you find most important to least important to you. When you begin shaping your story, you may start to find that some of these bits won't fit into a new framework. They don't mesh together. You need to be able to see which of your favorites are working well together when it comes down to cutting the ones that won't fit anymore. In addition to laying out all these things, laying out all these things will give you a better sense of the kind of story you'll end up telling in the end. Say, for example, you start noticing that you are really gravitating to the darker elements of the roleplay. In that case, a lot of the times you're going to have to cut out some of your favorite shenanigans and your favorite like nonsensical characters, and you don't have to get rid of them forever, but maybe put them in a box. They don't belong in this story anymore. The goal is to kind of keep your favorite bits intact, and this is kind of the most difficult part for some people. But remember, even if your favorite character doesn't work in the story, you don't need to put them in the trash. You need to put them in the recycle. And after you're done with cutting things, you'll kind of have like this weird lump that is definitely not a story, but it's the building blocks of the story. And I can almost assure you that you're not done cutting at this point, because sometimes you think you're done cutting all these bits out, and then you realize, oh my god, I have to cut these plot threads for time, and I have to cut this one and that one. And as you continue shaping your story, you'll begin spotting these redundancies and these mismatches even more. I find it particularly prominent in the plot and character side, since plot points and characters are a driving force in RPs, because they're kind of fun and novel, but in a story, adding a bunch of novelty and random bits is not as fun. It distracts from the clarity and the direction you want to go in a story. Sort of back in the realm of like memoir, and this is the advice that I kind of gravitate to. It's one of my guiding principles when I'm adapting any sort of story, and it's the phrase, move the door. It's advice that I got in a short memoir workshop I attended, but it comes from a student who was lamenting that their story would be easier to write if there was just a door connecting these two set of rooms. Then her characters could interact much more efficiently, and all these weird meandering scenes could be cut. But the student felt that they couldn't do this because in real life there wasn't a door there. The teacher ended up telling them that you just move the door anyways. Whenever you're writing from a roleplay, it's the same. You have to remind yourself to move doors. If it makes for a better story and it's not sacrificing anything really important, move the door. If a dragon battle happening in the middle of your story would be more climactic at the end of the story, move the battle. You're not a slave to the outline that you've been given, which is this ramble of a plot. You get to shape it, and you want to get on the same page as your creative partners, and you can distill your rambles into a wonderful story. And maybe you distill this freaking ramble into a wonderful piece of advice. Anyways, thanks for listening to me again. I am running the Kickstarter thing, so it's going good. Thanks for anyone who's supported so far. You guys are swell as heck. See you guys next week. Goodbye.